This is the Free Spirits of L&D podcast, where we talk about life as a freelancer in the fascinating world of learning and development, and ask our guests all the questions you wanted to know but were maybe too afraid to ask. Yes, we even talk about how we get business and what we all charge. At the end of each episode, each guest gets to set a bonus question for the next one. So whether you're thinking about taking the leap, brand new to freelancing, or an experienced freelancer, you won't want to miss this. In this episode, our guest is Maria Salkeld. Maria is a strengths-based coach, consultant and facilitator, and has enjoyed a long career in a number of talent development and coaching roles before branching out and starting her own freelance business on the third time round now. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. And it's lovely to see you again after many a year.
Thanks. It has been such a long time, hasn't it? Shall we start with the story of how you came to the realisation that you wanted to go freelance?
Yes. So as you've already said, Mark, I've just gone freelance again. This is my third time around. I'm sure that's not probably unique. But for me, I guess it's just been different life transitions, different moments in time. I had the first time was through a redundancy. Which I think is a common reason for people to kind of make change. And I was working at a large supermarket retailer, took redundancy, and people had said, "Oh, why don't you try freelance?" I've always been a large part of my working life has been in sort of learning and development and leadership development, talent coaching, and through that you often get to work with brilliant providers. And develop great relationships. So it's through conversations with those people and other colleagues who had also gone down a freelance route. I thought, well, why not? I hadn't given it much thought beforehand. And it was literally because the opportunity had presented itself. And there was a pot of money in the bank. And I know, listen to Kim's first podcast. It's a familiar story, isn't it? And decided to give it a go. And it actually coincided with my husband getting an opportunity to go and work in Melbourne, Australia. So actually, timing wise, it was brilliant because I went out with him and lived in Melbourne for about 8 months, where I didn't actually work at all, other than continuing some studies with the coaching provider. So it was when I got back about 8 months later, I then tried to restart or start again, going freelance. And at that time, and every time since, it has been about getting more, what more means to me, I guess, autonomy, flexibility, empowerment to do the work I want to do in the way I like to do it, and to remove, I guess, and again, these are my words, the restrictions around organisational life, and the politics and the constraints, and the hierarchies and levels of decision making, and the frustration that resulted in. And that's probably been a similar pattern in terms of the reasons why for the other times as well. The second time was I decided to leave corporate life. One job, and then I got the opportunity to join another organisation, but on a contract. And unfortunately, due to COVID, the contract was ended. And I thought, well, what am I going to do next? How do I want to work next? And decided again to give the freelance. I guess contracting is part of freelance world, isn't it? But I hadn't really done that before. So I decided to give freelance another go. Not the best time. We all lived through the pandemic from a work perspective, and clearly trying to go freelance in a pandemic wasn't ideal. But what I would say is what has helped me, and I'm probably going off at tangents here, is just network and the people. So I get a lot of energy from relationships, collaboration, people that I value, that inspire me, that I admire, and actually being able to get to work through those relationships has really helped me along the way. And that kind of, I guess, from a financial point of view, helped me survive really in the pandemic. But then panic hit a little bit, and again, that's probably a little bit of a theme in terms of, oh crikey, income, contributing, to the family household. Bit of pressure. No, not pressure from anybody else. Internal pressure, bit of stress, bit of worry. Keeping an eye on the job market, which I always did, and kind of took, saw an opportunity and thought, oh, that sounds interesting. That's sort of in my area of real interest and development and stretch. So I left freelance and went back to full employment again. So I then spent a couple of years working at a retailer, specialising in senior leadership development and coaching. And again, not that long ago, Mike and I actually decided that we kind of wanted again to just shift how we worked. And I always said I wanted to give freelance life another go, but be more purposeful and be more intentional this time. Whereas the last two times, I haven't really been. I haven't given it. For me, I don't think I gave it the attention that it needed in order for it to be as successful as I wanted it to be. So I thought if I don't give it another go, I'd regret it. And so here I am again, only sort of, where are we? Mid-October. Only sort of kind of 6 weeks officially, back self-employed again. But I've been doing a lot more work in the background.
Wow.
With what I want to do.
That's incredible. I think you're probably uniquely placed to answer a question that's been in my head. Following a conversation I had with someone last week, so I went out for coffee with another freelancer, and it's so funny hearing you describe it in this way, because he was also having this panic set in of going, business has got really, really quiet. I'm not entirely sure, whether I've got 3 months left, 4 months left, how that's going to look if nothing changes. And then he said something really unusual to me, which really stayed with me. And it was, I don't know if I could go back into an employed role because I think I've made myself unemployable by being a freelancer for so long. And my kind of coaching radar went off and I was like, oh, that's a really interesting way of framing that. What do you mean? And he just says, just thinking about all the things that you've mentioned there, Maria, all of that kind of that freedom, that autonomy, that empowerment that comes with being able to design your own work and design your own working schedule and process and choose your own customers. That's kind of how he'd framed it. It's like, actually, I can't go back into an employed role because all of that gets taken away from me. That's his perception. Has that been your experience, of going in and out and then in and out of those kind of roles? Do you think it's made you less employable, having all of that freelance experience?
It's a really interesting question, because I guess what does unemployable mean and look like? So it's going to be different, isn't it, for each of us? I do feel I've come to a point now where I would definitely be more on the unemployed, if we had it as thinking of our coaching on a continuum.
Yeah.
A lot more on the probably unemployable side, largely due to those important elements that we talked about, and they're closely linked to my values. They're really closely aligned to my values. And I guess you could get that. I mean, you could get all of those things in an organisation. I think it really is dependent on, I guess, what's most important to you and what you need. And for me now, in this time of, I guess, working life and alongside Mike, this is, I think we both wanted more control of how we worked, when we worked, and that flexibility. Even to the point of, we can work abroad for a few months. So Mike's family's got a place that, they bought a place in Spain recently. So really just thinking about that bigger perspective, that bigger landscape. And albeit, my last company, there was flexibility and there was a degree of autonomy. But I guess it is different because it is always within the parameters of the organisation and those around you and your peers and your colleagues. So from that point of view, it is different. Yeah.
Yeah. I think his kind of, we kind of delved into it a bit deeper in the conversation. And I think behind a lot of his perceptions was the idea that in order to be back in an employed role, he would have to almost take on a degree of compliance that his values weren't comfortable with. So kind of signing up to the company rule book and, making sure that he was, compliant with all of the rules and procedures that everyone else does when they are in an employed role. And then that's the trade-off of what you get for having a stable, consistent income every month and all the benefits that come with employed role as well.
Absolutely. I mean, so that's interesting. I smiled because I know I can understand. I can I can understand his point of view. Compliance,
Yeah.
I have to... What?
I'm not following those rules. Are you joking?
No, I'm not doing that. I won't, I will absolutely say, it was a huge benefit. And so the reason for, I guess, taking the decisions, there were reasons for taking the decision and making the decision that we did. And for yeah, absolutely. I mean, financially, it was clearly really beneficial for, us in terms of that decision. And the role I did, it gave me so much development and stretch, because I got exposure to, I guess, a different world of leadership development, being much more vertical, much more aligned to Gestalt. So for me, it was brilliant. I really have taken that and integrated it into who I am and the work I want to do really going forward. So I'll definitely say it's added. There might have been frustrations along the way, but it has added as well.
Yeah, it is. It's all part of the tapestry, isn't it, of your kind of career? It's you kind of you're creating this quilt, and it can be a real blend of things over the course of your career, and it doesn't need to be all completely binary, completely self-employed or completely employed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess reflecting on it, and I might have missed some bits out just in terms of the potted history, but I mean, I've spent a large part of my life employed in a traditional, typical organisation, but then I have, been self-employed, freelance, contract, short-term, part-time. I've done part-time employed mixed with self-employed. Sorry, so that tapestry, I guess, word really resonated. So I definitely had. I don't know if there's probably some ways of working I've not done, but I've definitely tried and experimented with a fair few.
Yeah. And that's a bit of
then
a
I also
theme,
get
I
bored
think.
Quickly. Sorry, just.
Yeah, no, it is. I think that is a bit of, but both of those things are a bit of themes. I think generally people who are bored quite quickly and who enjoy lots of variety will adapt really well to freelance life, because there's so much variety. If you want it, you can welcome it in with open arms and you have as much of it as you want. I think people who maybe are less inclined towards embracing variety and a bit of adaptation, a bit of experimentation, maybe less so, because almost everyone that I've spoken to who's either sort of just stepping into freelance life or has been in that space for a while has said the same thing, that it's that what they thought it would look like and the way it actually is has been really different, and that has involved so much adaptation and so much experimentation and playfulness.
Yeah, I totally resonate, and I agree, and I'm having to really, I guess, lean into that playfulness, agility piece now as well, to help me, navigate and move through. And perfectionism, I have to be aware of perfectionism, my desire to get it just right. I did a LinkedIn post not that long ago that kind of shared, my feelings of uncertainty. Oh gosh, what do I post? When do I post? What's right? What's wrong? Probably in the desire to, I've got to be perfect. I've got to get just so. So yeah, I guess I'm playing with that agility, try things, test things in this world versus it being, oh, that's okay in a corporate world. That can be okay. So yeah, it's transferring that into this space.
What sort of, can you give any examples of things that you've been playing with in order to try and adjust for that, want to perfect things and make things just so?
Talking to you on this podcast.
Lovely. Yeah.
My first one, so yay.
Oh, wow.
I did my first video on LinkedIn the other week, which I've never done before, and instead of thinking about it for too long, okay, there were a couple of takes, let's be honest, but then I just thought, right, no, that's it, I've said what I wanted to say, didn't watch it back, just thought, right, I'll just put it out there. Does it matter? It just does not matter. I think I definitely have been guilty, I'm still guilty of worrying about what other people are going to say and think, and I have let that stop me. So I think why I've tried freelance employed is because at that moment in the freelance world, I think I let that overcome me a little bit and thought, oh, I know, I need the safety and security of an organisational system around me. And that's a bit like the cocoon, whereas when I was on my own, I guess I didn't feel that in the same way.
Yeah.
So I've definitely let, I think, that worry about and fear. Yeah, that's definitely held me back, which is weird when that's obviously what you work a lot on in coaching and with other people. Other people, I really enjoy it. When it comes to yourself, yeah, it can be difficult.
It is, and not to worry anybody who's in an employed role who's listening, but I think sometimes that security and that sense of being in a cocoon is a bit of an illusion as well. I think, a lot of people have 3-month notice periods on a contract, which in a lot of cases isn't very much. To know that you've got that as a security blanket, 3 months isn't an awful lot of time at all. In terms of, and comparing that against the amount of kind of safety and security that you can empower yourself to build and be completely in control of.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of cocoon, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're making me think about how do we frame it? What's our frame? I make that assumption in those moments of, I guess, uncertainty. I'll go back to what I know.
Yeah.
In one way, what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
But weirdly, in another way, not comfortable with, because I know I'm kind of fighting to probably not be in that. Yeah, it's just fascinating. I've also found it quite strange when I now reflect in terms of, I guess, that level of comfort of just talking about sort of putting yourself out there and the fear of, other people's responses and, I don't know, well, it's worry, rejection, somebody saying something that makes you feel a bit, I've never had a problem seeking corporate gigs employed, but then I kind of, when it comes to my own world of freelance and me, Maria, I've let that worry kind of take over a little bit, but in the past.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? With video? I think video is becoming such an important medium, particularly on some places like LinkedIn. But it's been like that on a number of other platforms for a while now. I think, about maybe 3-4 years ago, I was doing a big project where we had to do a load of e-learning, video-based e-learning. And we'd never done anything like that before. So as an experiment, talking about playfulness and experiment, the team went and off and wrote all the content. And I said, right, I'll figure out the tech behind it. I'll figure out how it's going to go in terms of how do you speak to a camera, lighting, audio, all of the kind of animations and things. We'll figure that out, and then we'll come together and we'll make something. And in order to practice that, rather than practice on the project that we were going to be charging X amount of money for, I just set up a YouTube channel and thought, oh, well, give that a go. Chances are no one's going to see it, so it doesn't really matter. It's a safe place to play. And I never stopped doing it. It grew and grew and grew, and it was like it was a really interesting learning experience, because every single time I pressed publish, I got this amazing kind of dopamine hit from going, oh my gosh, there's this little thing that I've created and it's out in the world now and people can see it. I still get that now whenever I press publish on a video. And then secondly, it's unique in the sense that you can look at it and go, every single video, there's an iterative element of improvement, whether it's like a little tweak or a way of presenting to a camera or something you've learned about lighting or what that little button does in that editing software here. And that's really great to be able to look back and go, 50 videos ago, it looked like this, and now it looks like this, and it's so much better. And 50 videos from now, it's likely to look even better again. It's rare that you get that kind of exponential kind of curve in learning that you can actually see. I love it. And I saw your video. It was amazing. It was really, really good.
Thanks.
and I think you should make more. You should make more, because I think it's, especially when you're in the coaching space, most people, as a bit of a marketing tool, you can write about stuff and people can see your thoughts that way. In being able to see what it's like to work with you and be with you, that's what a video should feel like. They can actually see how you are with people, even though that might feel a bit unusual talking into a camera and there not being anyone there. There's no kind of energy exchange, but you're able to give people a little window into what it's like being in a thinking space with you. And you can only really do that with video.
Yeah. Yeah, I must admit, I get the dopamine hit. I did feel there was a real moment afterwards. I pushed myself stepped outside my comfort zone. So I will do more. I will make a commitment to do more. But maybe I've got some tips from the expert that I'm with right now.
No. A lot of my YouTube content is extraordinarily geeky and at times quite catty and a little bit cynical.
I've seen it, right? Okay,
Goes quite different from my other professional persona in kind of the coaching space and the freelance space. But yeah,
brilliant.
If that floats your boat, I'll leave a link in the show notes. Last episode, Kim posed a lovely question for our next guest, not knowing that it would be you, and which was, what inspires you? So, do you want to take that one on, Maria? What inspires you?
Gosh, what inspires me? Gosh, I always think, when I think of inspire, I think something really big.
If it's helpful, why don't we narrow it to think about what inspired you to make a video after never making a video before?
Oh, good question. So what inspired me to make a video having never done one before? I think there was a couple of things. One was, it was important, for me, I felt it important to actually put myself more in the virtual world, or the LinkedIn, not the virtual, but LinkedIn world, actually, because that's where I feel as though, I guess, my clients will live. Yes, I have, many a connection on there who I know, trust, value, who know me, but yet you are connected. I am connected with so many people that I don't know. I've never met, never spoken with, and I think you said it earlier. It's how do they know actually who you really are? So that was one. So that was one of the reasons I thought I want to show who I am, and it connects with me wanting to be more purposeful and intentional. And as I'm giving this freelance gig another go, and I want to be more intentional and purposeful. I've used those words a few times, I know. I thought that was important. So actually, I guess that was a real driver in terms of what inspired me to do that and try that. And I talk about, I guess, testing and experimenting and playing when working with leaders. I've just finished working with a group of leaders. We had our last session yesterday, and that was really playful, using creative photography and spray paint, but being playful and creative, and I enjoy that stuff as well. Probably, just writing actually, they've got me on a roll now. I feel as though writing doesn't float I always think, I'm not a very good writer. But then they're the words I will say to myself. So yeah, let's actually practice what I also talk about and help get other people to do. Yeah, so that's probably what inspired me to do that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Maria. And actually, as we're sharing, I used to feel the same way about writing. I used to hate writing stuff down. I'd much rather say it out loud with someone, or even film it like this. And the weird thing that I've noticed after three and a half years of making videos online is that it's made me a better writer, because normally my process for making videos is I say it out loud, I write down what I've said and then organise it into something that kind of makes sense, and then I record it. So there is always a written version of it, even if I'm not fully reading from a script. There are some notes, or there's some sort of flow that I'm following in a way that feels natural. But the upshot of practicing the spoken version of my thoughts and my creativity is that it's actually improved something that I didn't think I was much good at as a whole. So you might find the same thing happens with yours.
I'll come back to you on that one then.
Who knows?
Who knows? Time will tell.
Time will tell. Would you like to leave a question for our next guest that I'll ask them from you?
Yes, of course. Okay, so I guess the first thing that pops into my mind is, what is one tip you would give? So I'm thinking that you would give somebody who's considering going into freelance. and or first early stages of freelance. And then there might be two different answers. So, but that was the space I was thinking about.
I love that. Great question. Do you want to have a go at that one from your perspective? What's your one tip?
Oh, what is my one tip?
Don't do it.
Yeah. No. I am thinking, I was going to say again, from my own experience, one tip would be work out what it is that you want to do. Freelance. Work out what, if, do you need a niche, and what is that?
Yeah, that's such a great answer. Because I think, I remember I said this to Kim when she was setting up the L&D Free Spirits, because there was the word freelancer was everywhere. And I think it does carry with it these kind of connotations of, a freelancer is someone who just does a bit of everything, as opposed to somebody who is a specialist in a particular niche who comes in and works as an external consultant or coach or facilitator or whatever that might be. I don't know. Do you ever find that when if you ever describe yourself as a freelancer, that people just assume it means, well, Maria does a bit of everything?
So I think definitely, yes. And I think, I could have all of the podcast on niching and I think I have wrestled with that over the years. Because in my corporate experience, you kind of think, well, I turn my hand to a lot of different things: leadership development, leadership design, facilitation, coaching, mentoring, talent. And so I could turn my hand to all of those things now. And I also understand the reasons and the benefits of niching. So now I'm playing and experimenting with framing what I do. So I guess my overall work, it typically is framed around strengths, positive psychology, strengths-based development, leadership development, etc. But in the background, I'm working on actually a niche area of a coaching program for people like me in L&D, so female women in L&D. So that's a niche area that I am doing some background work on.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I think and there's this almost like a paradox where when you're setting up by yourself, you want to be able to say yes to as much as possible because you never know what's going to come up. Therefore, all the things that you can turn your hands to, it's almost impossible not to say yes to some of those things. Whereas the smart choice in almost every industry, not just freelancing in L&D, is to really spend some time figuring out what is the niche, what is the demand, what are their problems, what are their concerns, what results do they need, and then really go in hard on a lot of those areas. We're going to be running a kind of podcasting boot camp in a few weeks' time as part of the Free Spirits Network, although it's open to all people. And a massive part of that will be doing a whole ton of research to figure out what niche are you in, what lane do you want to travel in. You can change it at some point, but actually starting off from that perspective of saying, what do you want to do? What do you want to sort of project out to the world and to be known for? Even if there's tons of things that you can turn your hands to, it's a really good thing to get that really nailed right from the start, because not many people do get there.
No, and I never had done before. So again, this is the first for me. And I am working with a brilliant female coach who specialises sort of in working with female coaches and consultants. So for me, that's helped, and it's challenged my thinking and it's challenged the assumptions that I make. And I've had conversations with her several times around, but I can do all that, and I can do this. It's not forever. Just exactly. Yeah. And it's linked into what we were talking about, being, I guess, agile, iterative, play with things, experiment. But I still have those moments where I'm navigating through that. And actually, I'm okay with that. I actually feel okay now with having a niche and giving it a go, and seeing where it comes from. And it's from my own, it's my niche is my own experience, my lived experience. It's just, I think for me, as long as sounds obvious, or as long as I'm learning from it and taking out what will help me and keep me moving in the direction in which I want to go to, then that for me is the main thing. But recognising that, I might try things and do things and to see what works, what doesn't work. I definitely remember taking on everything, that mindset of, I just need to... and then sitting back and going, okay, I've enjoyed doing that, less so that. I've enjoyed doing that, less so that. That can be part of the process, can't it?
I don't know if that is obvious, I think that's a really important insight for people who are thinking about going freelance to think about is that if you're thinking about taking on a job or an opportunity, rather than framing it as what monetary value is this going to give me, the kind of the really core stuff, actually framing it as what am I going to learn from this experience and what value do I place on that learning? It's a really different way of thinking about it all, and it might surprise someone when they think about it in that way. I've never thought about. I was just thinking about something I'd turned down this week, and I was kind of fighting with myself about it afterwards. I go, why did you say no to that? And I think that probably was it. It was because I knew that it wasn't going to enhance my learning in that particular space. Even though it would have been interesting, it wasn't going to give me anything new on the learning front. That's probably one of the key things underneath the surface that was going on, under why I was kind of intuitively wanting to say no.
Yeah, interesting.
So thank you for that.
No, that's my pleasure. And and also I guess from the strengths point of view, how much energy will I get, or how much will it drain me? And I know sometimes that is a balance between actually what do I need to do versus actually what I'd want to do as well. So I guess it's, in an ideal world, it's being able to sit back and look at things and use some of these questions to make some informed, as much objective decisions as possible. But sometimes in the moment, depending on circumstances, I think, but no, I'll just take it. And that it can be okay.
We're just coming on to the last question now, Maria, which is the one that we ask everybody on this podcast. And it is, what is your day rate?
This is a brilliant question. And I don't really feel I have the answer. It's something I've wrestled with. I think every time I've been self-employed, God, what do I charge? I'll tell you what, let me have a conversation with several people and find out, what do you charge? How do you go about doing it? And people say, don't charge a day rate, think about the value and impact that you're having. But how do you charge that? What figure do you put on value and impact? So I'm at early stages of self-employed again. One rate that I charge, it's quite simply for sort of a strength scope psychometric and a 90-minute coaching session to support that is $495. So that's one rate I'm kind of really, really clear on. And for design and delivery, again, it might depend. That'd be a classic line, no doubt, when people ask.
Yeah, take a shot. Anyone who's listening along, that's your... But ballpark currently for a corporate client is £1,500 a day, and then coaching, and then I also do coaching, and I'm currently, as I say, designing sort of this coaching program for a specific group, and I'm just going through the process now of thinking about what that might be, and I'm probably thinking just under the 2K mark for 6 sessions that do a lot of deep inner work plus strength scope as a tool. So I guess and I'm going to say they're ballpark figures. So if anybody, potential clients, kind of use this and say, on this podcast you said, but they'll be ballpark figures. And again, it could vary. It might depend on if it's corporate client direct, or if it's direct to a individual client who's funding it themselves. So I think most people would kind of think might be different factors might be taken into consideration, and also if it's a charity, etc. But yeah, that's just to share some figures. Thank you,
as well
Maria.
as the generalisation.
I think it's really important, and I think one of the things I've learned in my journey so far is not to be scared to ask people in the same industry as you, what do you think? Because the last thing you want to do is massively overprice yourself, and then you don't get the work and you never get invited back, or massively underprice yourself and find that you've actually just lowered the ceiling for everybody, or lowered the floor for everyone. It's we talked about this in Kim's episode, but the idea that if we can be more united as a freelance profession around this, a rising tide lifts all ships, and we can be more confident in our kind of collective value as a group of professionals, as opposed to just everyone kind of putting a finger in the air going, maybe, might be this, might be that.
Yeah. We talk about, and in fact I was reading a LinkedIn post, it might have been I can't remember, was it last night or this morning, about you said collective value, which made me think of collective intelligence. There's so much intelligence, amongst as you say, the freelance community. So what does that collective intelligence look like to help gather some information? I think occasionally there are some surveys that come out, aren't there? And I think there are some surveys of coaching rates. I think the global coaching surveys. I have had sight of that in the past. And it's interesting from my point of view, having worked in corporate and procured a whole range of leadership providers, coaches. The rates vary so dramatically.
Yeah.
And I am becoming more comfortable with actually talking about the valuing, I guess, valuing my experience, my knowledge, wisdom, qualifications, over 25 plus years, 30, of work and working in this, largely working in this space. So that is an important mindset and that money mindset around valuing your own, what you bring and your uniqueness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you're doing. Yeah. It's the company who might be paying you. They are paying for all that experience, and they're also paying for the privilege of not having to learn it themselves, which might take 25 years. In which case, you're offering them a bargain. You could definitely argue. That.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely. If they're coming to you for the expert and the expertise in the space, the topic, the whatever background, and they haven't got it, then yeah. But it's an intriguing area and one I think that definitely needs attention and intention behind it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maria. One final question, which is how can people find out more about you and what you do if they want to get in touch with you after this episode, or if they want to find out more about some of your strengths-based approaches when it comes to coaching, consultancy, facilitation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I live mainly, and I will be living more on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Maria Salkeld. I am on Instagram. I don't use it probably as much, Quirky Bird Strengths. And I've got a website, which kind of gives a very basic overview of what we do. That's Quirky Bird Strengths. So I'd love to connect. I've talked about it, sort of connections, relationships, collaboration, are all part of my strengths. So I love to connect with people. So please do.
I'll make sure I drop all of those links in the show notes when this goes out. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Maria.
I listened to so many podcasts and it said we'll put the links in the show notes. I was like,
your links will be in the show notes. I'll tell you what, one last final one before we close off.
Final question.
This has been your first podcast, you said.
Yes.
Be honest. What's it been like?
I've really enjoyed it. And thank you. You have made it feel easy. You've got such a lovely, relaxing style. Open, listen. I know that you're listening to me. So, and I don't feel judged whatsoever. So, yeah, it's been great. I highly recommend it. Who's next?
Who's next? Sign yourselves up. Get in touch on the form on the website.
And if you want to speak to me about my experience, please let me know.
Brilliant. Right. Thank you again, Maria, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks, Mark. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, let us know by leaving a review on your favourite podcast app. It really makes a difference. And if you want to learn more about how L&D Free Spirits can lift up your freelancing business, you can find out more information at ldfreespirits.com.